My name is Patrick Moore, and I am the South Coast Director for the Coastal Conservation League in Beaufort, South Carolina. But it was 2 years ago when I was in our Columbia office that we took up the fight against river shacks. The following is a dramatic recreation of those events. I was anxious to get the kayak out on the river that day, but I couldn't stop thinking about what I saw every time I was out on the water. It always felt like I was paddling through a junkyard. These are some of the most beautiful waters in the world, and a few selfish people were ruining it for everyone else by claiming public waters as private property. It was obvious what I had to do. With a little bit of research, we realized that there were hundreds of these river shacks all over the state and that they were completely unregulated. The river shack issue began about 20 years ago when we started seeing a few of these shacks in the most far-flung and remote places. It wasn't a very big deal, there were only a few, they weren't very visible. Today, the Santee Swamp is home to more than 100 shacks. It's the highest concentration of river shacks in the state. They are on almost all of our state's rivers, or at least the low country rivers, and are made out of homemade construction, homemade materials, and are either on pontoons, barrels, or some sort of styrofoam flotation. There are several problems with river shacks. The first is that most of them discharge gray water and raw human sewage into the water with no permit and no treatment. They are taking up public water and public resources as if it were private without paying any taxes, and most of these shacks are actually located on state scenic rivers. This is a state designation where the legislature has said these are our most valuable and pristine resources and we need to protect them. They also impede navigation when they are abandoned and eventually sink. They lie just below the water. Now, unsuspecting boaters come along and can run right into them. There's also the mooring cables, which oftentimes stretch 50, 100, or 200 feet to attach the shack to shore. Oftentimes these mooring cables are drilled straight through ancient cypress trees, and oftentimes people just cut down the ancient cypress trees in order to get their shack just right. As we looked into the issue, it became clear that it fell not directly within the jurisdiction of the South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control or the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources. So it was clear that a legislative solution was needed. With the leadership of Representative David Umflett, the Public Waters Nuisance Abatement Act was introduced. This said, if you have a shack that is discharging directly into the waters or causing one of these problems, you have to remove it immediately. If you are not causing any of these problems, you can apply for a permit for 5 years to keep your shack. After 5 years, you have to remove it. So with this legislative solution, we have let the people who are not breaking the rules keep their shacks, maintain their enjoyment of the resource, while removing the problem shacks so everyone else can enjoy the river. At the end of the 2006-2007 legislative session, the South Carolina General Assembly passed the Public Waters Nuisance Abatement Act. This bill says no new river shacks on any of South Carolina's rivers. Existing shacks had 60 days from the passage of the bill to apply for a permit, and to get a permit, the shack owner had to show that their shack didn't cause any of the problems generally associated with these structures. The other shacks that did not meet these criteria would be removed by the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources. As we speak, the river shacks on South Carolina's waterways are being surveyed, and the process of removing them has begun. So that's my story and the story of river shacks in South Carolina, and if you need me, I'll be on the river.